podcast, my wife and I spoke with a good friend, Llary Zang. Llary enjoys photography, listening to rock music, and crossing paths with friendly dogs. Whatever you listen to of this interesting dialogue, I hope that you can enjoy. Just make us feel so... They can really elevate our mood.
Tough guy.
Yeah. You're a huge dog lover, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever have dogs when you were growing up?
Oh, I always had dogs
Always had
growing
dogs.
up.
But now you don't have dogs,
No,
right? You just love hanging out with them.
I'm not home enough.
Yeah.
It's a big responsibility. I have a lot of dogs in my life. And when I take a walk, anybody that walks with me knows we're going to stop every time I see a dog and excuse me, can I say hi to your dog?
Yeah. Yeah, you're always interacting with them.
Yeah.
You have a lot of love for dogs. Can we talk about the Green Tortoise Bus? Like, how did that experience change how you see the world? By seeing the country more, by meeting different people, or maybe the community, or how that company was run?
Definitely.
Did any of that shift your personality or how you see the world?
Yeah, definitely all of the above. I didn't think anything like that was possible. I was like, how do you do there's jobs out there that you wonder, wow, how did they get that job?
Yeah.
Well, it was as simple as going in and applying and telling them, the whole story of how I got the job is pretty wild, actually. But, it's changed my life. That's how I ended up here. I actually broke down in the Green Tortoise over on Mission Street, going up that big hill there, up by Walnut. Pulled into the gas station in Walnut.
Okay.
Just thought, Santa Cruz, maybe I'll just stay here. So 2 days later, I was driving the bus to Seattle from San Francisco, and I saw a lady and her son had gotten on in Santa Cruz that morning. So I said, oh, do you live in Santa Cruz? She goes, yeah. I said, oh, I'm moving there. She goes, oh, where are you going to live? And I said, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
She goes, oh, well, I got a trailer in my side yard and the guy's leaving next month. Why don't you come check it out?
That's amazing.
Okay.
That's amazing.
So, I lived here within a month. I'm telling all the Green Tortoise drivers, oh, I'm moving to Santa Cruz. And they're like, yeah, good luck finding a place.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was hard to find a place. I had no idea it was really expensive.
Yeah.
I just broke down here and it seemed like a sign.
When was that? How many years?
That was in 2000. So I've been living here almost a quarter century now, which is funny because I still feel like the new guy in town here,
Yeah.
which I am, compared
You're
to
a
a lot
local.
of people.
You're a local. So do you, in your day-to-day life, do you look for signs like that or omens like that are kind of pointers?
I don't look for them. They
present
find
themselves.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the apartment I got now, I lived in my van for 2.5 years after Land of Medicine Buddha. And I was on this, PEMO.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
Well, PEMO told me to get on this list at St. Stephen's.
Yeah.
And so I did everything PEMO told me to do,
Yeah.
And so I got on the list, and I was on the list at her place, and they had an estimate of 16 years.
Wow.
So I thought, wow, okay, so when I'm 80-something, I might have a place.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I was on this list at St. Stephen's, and they weren't built yet. They were still building. They weren't open yet. So there's a famous song called St. Stephen's that the Grateful Dead does. So I made a Grateful Sunday one night.
Yeah.
This was 2.5 years after I was on the list, and they went into St. Stephen's, and I elbowed my friend, and she looked at me, she goes, what, do you think that's a sign?
Yeah.
And I just shrugged. I'm like, I don't know. Next day, there was a letter saying, come on in, you got an apartment. I'm like,
wow.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
my
insane.
whole life has been like that. I have really good housing karma.
I'm happy for you.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I wish I
Super
had good
awesome.
teeth karma and stuff too, but
Yeah. You gotta be happy for what you
have
get.
everything.
Yeah, I know.
That's something like, you have this. And
Maybe in
then,
a next life.
Yeah.
But yeah, good enough. It's awesome. Yeah.
So, how long have you been studying the Dharma or interested in the Dharma now?
Well, I've always been interested since high school. I think I read an Alan Watts book.
Okay.
And I was always interested. I was interested in anything, anything that sounded like it could be useful in my life. I didn't care if it came from the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, or Buddhism. It didn't really matter, and it still doesn't matter. I mean, I'd take it wherever. But in '99, I was traveling around Europe, and I was inspired to go to Europe, or not Europe, India. I was inspired to go to India by Ram Dass, and I really liked his guru, Baba. And so I was kind of looking for somebody like that, and so I went to a couple ashrams, and I'm just really not into scenes very much, and everybody'd be all dressed in white.
You mean when people start grouping up together and they have a name for themselves? So you like to be a little more independent?
Yeah, like I didn't even hang out in Lama Zopa's scene. Yeah. There's a scene around him, and there needs to be. Anybody that's famous needs to have that thing
some kind of a group,
because otherwise...
To help keep the momentum of the community going.
Yeah, and they have to beware of people that want to get in and take them for something or. Yeah. But what were we talking about? Oh, over in India. Yeah, I was. So I was traveling around looking for something. I didn't know what. So after about 6 months, I just gave up. I said, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm here, so I might as well just enjoy it. Yeah. So I went to Thailand for a month and met my friend Allison, who was the same person I elbowed about about the house. And she said, "Hey, Larry, do you want to come to Thailand for a month?" So I said, "Yeah, okay." So I went to Thailand for a month, and we just spent a whole lot of time going to Watts, the Thai temples. Okay. I was pretty amazed by them. I'd go in and just like, wow.
The beauty of it all.
Yeah, so after I'd gotten all these Buddha impressions on my mind and everything, I went back to India and took the train from Madras to Calcutta. And there was a woman on the train that I was talking to, and we both like dogs, and she goes, "Oh," I said, "Yeah, I can't wait to go back to the States and pet dogs, because the dogs down in the plains of India, they usually don't have hair or anything. I would feed them and stuff, but you don't pet or cuddle with them or anything." Yeah. So I'm like, I can't wait to go back to the U.S. and pet dogs again. Yeah. She goes, "Oh, if you like dogs, you should go to the Root Institute in Bodh Gaya. They have the best dogs." Really? So I looked it up on the internet machine, which was brand new then in India, and I saw they had a 6-day course, and so I signed up, and mainly to meet the dogs, and I did. I met this dog there that had a broken leg. Its leg was in a cast, and every time we had a break, I'd go outside. It'd come running up to me, and we'd hang out. And on the very last day of the course, I walk outside, the course is over, and there's cotton all over the trees, all over the lawn and everything. I'm like, what in the heck happened out here? And then I see the dog, and it chewed its cast off, and it was free. It was like, yes, it was so happy. And so it was, yeah. And then after that, I changed my whole plans and took a 40-hour train ride to go to Dharamsala to see the Dalai Lama and everything.
And you've continued to study on since then, pretty much. Yeah. And how has Buddhism kind of changed you as an individual? Has it much?
It doesn't feel like it has, but when I look back at where I came from, and I've changed quite a bit. I don't kill mosquitoes anymore. Okay, there you go. It's funny too, because at the Root Institute, the first night we go in and they gave us a little general talk. Yeah. And I go back to my room, and there's mosquitoes in there, so I rolled up a mandala magazine and was killing mosquitoes on the wall. And
so you're using a Buddhist magazine to kill mosquitoes.
Yeah, isn't that interesting karma for the mosquito? I hope it was good. Yeah. But the next day I go in and they say, and that's why we don't even kill mosquitoes. And I'm like, oh, it's funny how I didn't even see them as, mosquitoes. That's how I think most people look at them. What's the big deal? You kill a mosquito. But I haven't killed one since on purpose, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I've gotten a couple friends to stop killing bugs too, so
That's awesome.
that aren't Buddhist, but they just realized that, oh yeah, I guess they are, they like their life as much as we like ours.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes. Mosquito bite me. They loves me. Like I hate them, but in our room, like in our apartment, we have a room because I'm not a Buddhist, but I like a lot of things about Buddhism. He knows, and I don't know. Like mosquito just bite me everywhere I go. And
they really do like her much more than they like me.
Anybody, and I like a lot of times I have 8, 9 like mosquito bite, and he has none. But in our apartments, like it's in summertime, there are so many like bugs, so many mosquitoes, and we have a rule which is okay. I'm not gonna kill the mosquitoes at all, but you need to catch them and to release
So it's
them.
my responsibility to always be catching them. I'm like the UFO that's transporting or abducting them from our
Because when you got
environment.
bites every day for something, it's really, but I don't want to kill them. I don't have the intention to kill them too, but if I see them still in our
they trouble her
apartment,
mind.
because it bites me, not you, right? Not you. I'm gonna do it. So, like, I'm like, okay, so here's the deal.
Yeah, that's our deal.
Yeah, but so in this way, we're all good. Like, I'm like, but I'm really...
Because if I'm not doing that, then she'll drive her crazy, and then she'll get so crazy that like she'll want to kill it, Yeah.
I want to get it out because...
That's probably the same thing. The
everywhere.
reason why humans end up killing humans. They like just get... They don't have enough equanimity, so they start going so crazy for whatever their narrative or stories are in their mind, their psychology, and then they just go berserk, and they just like go full aggression mode. The same thing, like people have they're getting annoyed by the mosquito, and then at a certain point they rationalize killing it.
That's different. If mosquito just in there, not biting me, I have no problem.
Right.
Right?
But
That's a little bit different.
But even their presence nearby you is somewhat annoying,
No,
right?
it's because they intend to
First
bite me.
thing they do is they buzz in your ear, which is like, why do they do that?
Yeah.
I don't even mind the biting so much.
Think about the irony of me doing this right now. You guys
It's all good. No
All
problem.
good.
Sorry, I'm being the mosquito.
No.
Literally,
At least we won't kill you.
No, I don't bother. Like, really, I don't bother. The main thing is they bite me.
I don't like to.
They bite me.
Yeah, it's very, very
It's like
annoying.
you just know then they're just waiting for you. Although the males don't bite, so I don't know. I wonder how
It's a
many
female
times
thing
it's
only?
male, but yeah,
Really?
females only bite.
Wow.
And somebody told me 2 weeks ago at family camp that if you let them finish,
Yeah.
you don't get a welt and you don't itch.
Oh, really?
Now I haven't tried that
No,
yet.
Atlanta Medicine Buddha, I started to let them.
Uh-huh.
I would just like, me and Haris, like, we would be there, and it would like go, and I would just let them do their whole thing. And just, But then I would always have some level of paranoia that they would be carrying some kind of disease or something. I don't know, I don't think it's that common, especially around Santa Cruz. But
No, it's not.
They could.
In those like places like Bali, like those.
Yeah.
Yes,
Higher
there are
probability
like
that
the
you could
mosquitoes are really.
have some kind of a disease.
Yeah, but here.
Here, not much chance.
not much.
because it's just a,
And
it's a minor
besides that,
discomfort.
the disease might be spread when you shoo them away.
Yeah,
'cause
that's
Yeah.
a true.
there's
issue.
something. Yeah, there's something that happens when you shoo them away and they don't finish. I think a
They
lot of it
shock.
goes back in or something.
I see. That makes sense.
But I do want to try that sometime, though.
Yeah, it's just a form of generosity. You're just offering a little bit of food, right? It's like you
I
have
u-
this,
I
you have
usually-
this-
offer too
you have
many.
you have this abundance of like food in your body,
Yeah.
and you're just sharing it.
I often do let them have a little bit, but I don't let them finish. It's like, okay, that's long enough.
Yeah, I generally just blow them off. Yeah. Do you have much time? Do you need to go? Are you?
I'm in no hurry.
You're in no hurry at all. So one thing that I've been thinking about recently is like, we've also kind of had a dialogue about this a little bit online on Instagram, you and me. But to add on to what we've talked about before, it's like there's some level of differences between each generation, and some people are more up to what's going on in the younger generations as they're aging. They're more kind of up to what's going on, how things are changing. But now maybe, I don't know, my thought process is like culture is changing so much due to globalization and technology that the
it's maybe I don't know. It's harder to understand and put ourselves in the shoes of the younger generations because the landscape and civilization and the human culture is changing at such a fast pace. It's harder to relate to some degree.
Right.
And then when it comes to passing the baton of Buddhism and translating Buddhism from one generation to another, perhaps skillfully doing that becomes more challenging as human civilization and culture is shifting so much due to globalization technology. Do you think there's anything to do that? To what I'm saying here, or not really?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's hard for me to realize that, that like somebody 12 is not growing up in the same world that I grew up in, and it's like really not even remotely the same.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to realize that, but on an everyday level, I mean, I have friends of all ages, from 99 to little babies, and most of my friends are like in their 40s or 50s. So most of my friends are younger than me. I do have old friends, but they don't do much.
So for you, how do you successfully relate to people at different ages? Everyone's a human and everybody appreciates kindness and kind of keeping it simple and...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And has the Buddhist philosophy like shifted your perspective, like seeing everyone as a sentient being and rebirth and karma and all of that, or not really?
It definitely does on a knowledge level,
Yeah.
I can feel it, I know it.
Yeah.
But I don't always remember that when I'm with someone, until maybe later when I'm in bed, I'll think, I should have remembered that person was just, like, especially if it's an authority figure. I have a really strong anti-authority streak in me, and, I try to realize that they're just human beings and they're doing their thing, and, and it's our karma to have this thing together. And so, I'm not always successful, but I'm doing better than I used to, and often I remember things afterwards, after the fact, which is better than not remembering at all.
Yeah. For me, there's a lot of I should have done that, or
Right.
I should have. Yeah. And what about maybe hippie is not the right word, or punk, maybe that's not the right word, or like even like a rock culture. Like if we just say counterculture in general. Here's some dogs.
Well, hello. This is Tina. She's a puppy, and this is Jace. He's the 7-year-old.
Larry loves dogs so much.
Oh, good. I mean, dogs are the best.
They are awesome.
Right? Isn't there like that sign? They lower your
So
cortisol
beautiful
level.
there.
Yeah.
Like one
For
dog
sure.
a day or something.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
saying hi.
Okay.
So if we like kind of group like rock culture and hippie culture and punk culture all into like the umbrella term of like counterculture, how do you see counterculture kind of aiding Buddhism into contemporary like globalized culture or Western culture? How has counterculture helped Buddhism?
Well, it's always been kind of counterculture anyway, Buddhism, It's, it's pretty radical philosophy for our everyday living here. And the one thing there's an old mandala magazine where they had interviews with all the Western monks and nuns who are now teachers and everything. And the one thing I noticed they all had in common was they all done LSD.
Okay.
Ah.
So
that was definitely, I think, a big part of, there was something happening in the 60s that all came to
well, after I did LSD, I became a lot more interested in Buddhism myself.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, you realize that everything isn't as it seems.
Yeah.
It definitely is good for that.
You don't take the physical world as seriously,
Right.
but it's still hard not to take the physical world seriously because
Yes.
the idea that I could
Especially
die.
when you come down,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here it is.
Yeah. When you're not tripping anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was living in Eugene in the 80s, it was kind of like I saw Eugene was a real hippie town, everybody was...
Eugene, Oregon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I watched it turn into a punk town. Everybody was, all the bands were punk and the people were all getting earrings and nose rings and
Do you see
eyebrow
the punk
rings
movement
and-
as hippie culture 2.0? Or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, I guess, but they are kind of this. They came out of each other, you know. Like the hippies came out of the beatniks, and even literally, you know, as the guy who was on the road, Neil Cassidy.
Neil Cassidy,
yeah, he also drove the bus for Ken
Just like you.
Kesey, electric Kool-Aid acid test. Yeah.
Did that inspire you to drive the Green Tortoise Bus at all, or not really?
It inspired me to travel and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, the way I got the tortoise job was my mom went in the hospital to have open heart surgery, and my friend bought me a plane ticket to go back and be with her as she recuperated to help her out. And I had to leave from Seattle. I couldn't get a ticket from Eugene, so I went from Seattle, and it was one of the days the tortoise only went to Seattle 2 days a week. So I had known about the tortoise for a while and was always interested in riding it. It sounded like my thing. But this was the first time when it was actually going someplace on the same day I was going. So I took the tortoise up, and I was talking to the driver and stuff, and he found out I drove buses and trucks, that I cooked in a restaurant.
So you already had experience.
That I had experience with people.
You had all the right skills.
Yeah, so he's like, hey, here's my card. You know, we're going to be training people in a few weeks. If you're interested, you know, come on in. So I took his card, and I thought, well, you know, I'm not interested now because I had a job I liked in Eugene, and I loved Eugene. I never thought I'd ever leave there. And then all of a sudden, my mom died that night.
Wow.
And so I went back for a funeral instead of a
visit.
Yeah. So anyway, I get back there, and my family's all there and everything, and I'm telling them about the Green Tortoise, and they're like, never heard of it, you know.
Yeah.
So a couple days later, 2 days later, my mom's obituary was in the paper. So I go out to the front yard, get my dad's newspaper, and bring it in, and I open it up. This is a little newspaper in central Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I open it up, and there's a big article and a picture of the Green Tortoise.
The same one as your mom's obituary?
Same one as...
So the obituary,
I still have the
like
paper.
The article about your dead family member, and it's in the same newspaper as the... So what are the odds?
Yeah, because like I say, I wasn't interested in driving then. I thought maybe in a year or two I might be interested, but not then. Instead, I went back, gave my notice, packed up all my stuff, put it in storage, and that was on March... In middle of March. By May, I was driving cross country.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's people that see those signs, but they just kind of ignore it. How do you have the faith to follow those signs? Like, how do you have the courage? Maybe that's a better word than faith.
Well, that sign was so strong that I would have been afraid not to.
I see.
But usually, it's just I've just kind of been following this road my whole life, you know.
And do you feel like it's been taking care of you? It's been
fine,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I never thought I'd still be here today, you know, at this age.
And from your Buddhist studies, do you interpret these signs or these omens or these synchronicities as kind of, let's say, a spiritual teacher kind of guiding you through life and pointing you in the right direction, like bodhisattvas manifesting in different forms?
I do kind of feel that way sometimes. Yeah.
And do you think that happens to any kind of person in the world, or to any kind of Buddhist practitioner, or do you have to have the karma for that to happen? Or do you...
Well, I think you have to have the karma, and you also have to be open to it.
Yeah.
And I'm open to it. You know, I just, you know, I broke down. It was funny too because it was 100 degrees that day.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even seen downtown Santa Cruz. It wasn't, you know, I'm up on Mission Street, which is just kind of strip malls and everything. And it was 100 degrees and really sticky. So I kept thinking, boy, I don't like this weather though. And I'm thinking, I'll have fans, I'll swim a lot, I'll get used to it, I guess.
Yeah.
And I kept coming back to that, boy, I don't like this weather. Then I move here and find out, wow, it's hardly ever 100 degrees. Matter of fact, we're the only place almost in the whole country that hasn't been frying this past 2 summers.
The weather is...
Why is that? Santa Cruz is like a miracle.
Yeah, we got to be quiet though.
You didn't hear that. Yeah.
Aww.
I don't think I have any more questions. I think I'm all out.
Just check.
I'm sure there could be,
Just Let's chat.
One thing that seems to be a common thread that I see, because I listen to a lot of different podcasts and different Buddhist teachers and different Buddhist practitioners or people that are interested in Buddhism, and one general theme I see is that, there's two general themes. One is that America, or even the world at large, is becoming more secular and less religious and less ritualistic and less traditions. And the other theme that I hear is that there's less and less what's the right word? Buddhist teachers that are kind of that we can depend on, maybe. I don't know. Like, there's people that are studying Buddhism, but they're like maybe not. There's not as many that are super well studied, and maybe they're diverging from traditions, and they don't have the kind of structure, so to speak. So they're more of they're outlier, and that's not bad or good per se, but they're maybe less reliable than maybe someone that's in like a Gelugpa tradition or some other type of long-standing Tibetan or Zen tradition, so to speak.
Right.
So can you relate with these two things? One, how Buddhism is manifesting in the contemporary world is becoming more and more secular and less kind of religious? And two, do you feel like there's less and less teachers that we can depend on as time moves forward? Or do you disagree?
Well, I see more teachers coming up now, like Ling Rinpoche and Zang Rinpoche, all the,
So you see a proliferation of teachers?
Yeah,
Okay.
right now. Like, for a while there, when I left Vajrapani, we were all old there,
Yeah.
I mean, I was only in my probably late 40s, but still, we were all like in our 40s and 50s and stuff, and it really felt like, wow, there's no young people coming up, it's gonna die.
Yes.
And then after I left, shortly after, Colby showed up, and then you were at Land of Medicine Buddha, all these young people were there, and it's like, okay, it's, it is going to continue.
Yeah.
So,
and then I'm assuming that you, correct me if I'm wrong, that you to some degree or another agree that Buddhism is to some degree becoming less religious, and then do you feel like that's okay? I mean, obviously there are some Buddhists that are still very ritualistic and religious, and that's cool, but then there's another divergent form of Buddhism that's much more secular and less religious and more almost scientific and psychological. And do you think that's a good thing? Is it important so that it's maybe more digestible to the public, or?
Yeah, probably, you're kind of, that's kind of what Lama Oso, well, not Lama Oso, he doesn't like to be called that.
Yeah.
But Osel,
I like that you call him Lama Osel, because I feel like more people should call him
Osel?
that. Yeah, Osel.
Osel, yeah.
I feel like he deserves that respect and that title.
Yeah, so he's much more, matter of fact, he was at Vajrapani recently, and the first thing he said is, I'm not a Buddhist.
Yeah.
And, all the nuns and monks are kind of sitting there like, interesting, okay. And, and he is, but he isn't. And I understand that, because I'm not either. I don't want it to limit me. I want it to expand me, which means that, like once you know something, you kind of stop thinking about it anymore. So I kind of try to stay a child, still learning, and everything is open, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think one thing I had a conversation with a family friend, and like at the end of the day, you want to have the most benefit to sentient beings. So if there's a general inclination in global society to becoming more skeptical and less religious, and this kind of psychological collective aversion towards any form of dogma or religion, then if you truly want to benefit sentient beings at the largest scale, then if putting away the rituals or the external appearances of the religion or those religious trappings helps to benefit more beings, then that's the most skillful means that can be applied. And I'm assuming that that's what's going on to some degree. I'm sure there's like, if bodhisattvas can manifest in the form of a newspaper, I'm sure they can manifest in the form of a non-religious, non-Buddhist, quote-unquote, individual that's like just a normal person. but still able to benefit.
No,
people.
I think that would be great. You know, anybody that can do that is great, because I don't really see Buddhism as a religion, because there's no God to worship.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't worship the Dalai Lama. I mean, certainly we want to, you know, I want to be like him, but I don't worship him. And
he's like a good role model to try to be more wise and compassionate.
Yeah. And it's funny, dogma, I find the people that are most dogmatic are people who don't believe in religion at all, you know, and they put them all together and, you know, religion is poison.
This is very true.
And it's funny how many don't even know that there's no God in Buddhism, you know. They just put them all together, that they're all the same, and they're certainly not. And, you know, as far as being skeptical, you were talking about that. Skepticism is a wonderful quality, man, because the Buddha doesn't want people blind followers. And, you know, oh, yeah, here's a guy that knows. I'll just listen and follow him. You know, he wants you to be, that's what he said. Don't believe anything that I say. Don't believe it because it's written. Don't believe it till you yourself have experienced it. And that's what drew me in, you know, because I've, like I say, I've took little bits from everything all my life. But that was the first time I said, oh, okay, now this I can get behind. I always was turned off when it said this is the way, the only way, nothing else, you know, everything else is bad. So.
Yeah, I think also at the core of the teachings, like, you want to benefit sentient beings and you're trying to develop wisdom and compassion. So that the fact that there is a strand of Buddhism that's becoming more secular and scientific and psychological, like, it's pretty promising in the respect that Buddhism can adapt. It sees that the religious trappings of the clothing and maybe the symbology is not digestible to a certain, you know, demographic or portion of the population. So it's honest with itself, acknowledges that, and it adapts and mutates and has symbiotic relationships with science and with psychology, but maintains its core values and rides on these other vehicles in this almost like psychedelic trip to enter into people's minds in a way that can benefit them. I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense to anyone, but
that does make sense. And you probably heard what the Dalai Lama said. I forget the exact thing, but I think it was they said something about what if you found out that Buddhism was wrong. You know, science proves that Buddhism was wrong about something, and the Dalai Lama said, oh, that's no problem, Buddhism will just have to change. And I thought, wow, that's profound, you know. Like, you know, talk to a Christian and say, well, what if you find out that Jesus never died on the cross or something, you know? I mean, that would just blow them apart. But Buddhism will just have to change. So that's pretty interesting.
I think what we're touching on is, like, I mean, if an individual is not flexible, if they're not opened, if they're too rigid and they're too attached or identified with certain ideologies or thought processes or beliefs, then it can be problematic internally to them as an individual, and it can be problematic to society and the relationships between the people and that individual. So there is an importance to flexibility and openness and being able to adapt, you know, and
Are you?
But I think I fail. I'm always saying that I'm a bad Buddhist because I am.
Oh, I'm a bad, terrible Buddhist.
No, I feel like I feel like in a way you are really good, but in a way as your partner, sometimes I feel like he's so extreme because I'm from a country.
I'm extremist Buddhist.
I feel like I'm from a country that is like we have Buddhism from down and down years, and I really affected by that since I was born. I was a little like we often go to Buddhism camp and stuff. I never been like so much like into it, but I like a lot of things about Buddhism, and I really adapt that, and I'm like trying to. That benefits me and like the direction that how I get along with others, how I treat others and stuff. But I think he has a lot of good intentions, and he trusts. He love
just good intentions.
No, good intentions.
Good intentions are important.
And you love it. You meditate. You think it benefits, but sometimes you get too extreme. You get too extreme. This is like he will think from Buddhism side. I'm like, this is the only way I'm gonna do this right. Otherwise, I'm not.
This guy thinks a lot.
Yeah.
He thinks too much. He really thinks too much. That's one
It's
question.
hard to change your habits.
Literally, I want to
It is.
ask
Very hard.
you because I feel like you believe in Buddhism or you're Buddhist, but you're more chill. Like he is really, really
I aspire
kind.
to become like Larry and to become chill, but it may take many
be
lifetimes.
careful there.
It may
You
take
know,
many lifetimes.
you want to do better than that.
Yeah, like but he gets too. Like you were talking about how flexible, but
Yeah.
a lot of time you're so tight and so like.
Well, to some
not
degree, I can
flexible.
acknowledge the good in other people and other movements, but to actually implement them in myself in the face of my own strong habits and tendencies, I am where I'm at, and I'm trying my best to make little baby steps forward, but I'm stuck in my little
And that's all we
addictions
can do is
yeah.
try our best. You know,
Yeah.
that's all we can do.
Yeah, is there anything that you think can be a little bit like?
benefit.
Yeah, no, like with you to be less.
Did you have
like,
advice on how I could become more chill and less extreme?
Yeah, a little bit
That's what I find on my list.
Seriously,
Mama Larry.
That's 2 L's.
Yeah.
Oh boy, how to be more chill? I don't know. Do you smoke pot?
Okay, I'll take the advice.
No, I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've smoked pot in the past and I've experimented with some psychedelics, but since I've experimented with psychedelics, my mind has become increasingly
So
sensitive.
sensitive.
So then when I go back to using weed, my mind kind of, I guess, relapses into to heightened degrees of sensitivity, and it's so overwhelming that I just find that not using substances is the thing that helps me to be at most calm. When I'm actually using the substances, then my mind is so paranoid and sensitive and
Yeah, it
overwhelming.
makes a lot of people anxious.
Yeah,
So
so-
yeah, that's not a good thing.
in the past it used to help me to chill out, but at this
Uh-huh.
point it makes things
So
too
sensitive.
intense.
Yeah.
So I can't really do it anymore. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe things have changed.
I
But,
don't know if it shows me. I mean, I'm not high now or anything,
yeah.
but yeah. I don't know if I am so chill. You know, people. I think I just have this
Appearance?
shell that just doesn't react to
Oh, yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's already.
Inside, sometimes I have a lot of anxiety and stuff. You know, I'm anxious about the world and everything. And
Yeah.
So learn how to freak out inside, but not create the appearance that I'm freaking out.
I don't try to do it or
Yeah.
anything. I guess like I say, I think I just have this face that doesn't react much.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Seriously, because
But I've never,
Yeah,
tried
I disturb
to be
people
that.
just by my expressions of the reactions that are occurring within my mind. People see my face and my
I'm like,
tonal
okay, chill.
voice changes, and then I start disturbing other people's minds.
no, literally, like when you do that, everybody's like, what? Like, it's not even a big thing. I'm like, what?
I make
What
things into a
just
very big
happened?
deal.
And the thing just happened is not even as like intense as what he react. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I have a long way to go, baby. A
Yeah.
long way to go.
Yeah.
But he-
yeah, anger's a tough one.
I struggle so much with anger.
Yeah, I struggle too. But I do know I'm doing better than I used to, because I used to love to break things and
Yeah.
get real dramatic. I'd have fights with
Me
my
too.
girlfriend. I'd smash. Albums were really good to
Yeah.
smash. LPs, that plastic, man, it would
Yeah.
explode when you
Yeah.
bent it in half and make a really loud noise. And,
Yeah.
But it was always my stuff that I broke. I
Oh,
couldn't
that's
break
awesome.
anything of hers. It was
That's
like, well,
nice.
that's not mine. I can't
That's
break
awesome.
that. So,
That's great
so
that
I'd
you
break
had
my
that.
stuff and think she's going to stop. And they'd be looking at me like,
Why is he breaking his own
he's
shit?
breaking his own stuff. Okay.
That's hilarious.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So I don't do that anymore.
And that's good because you're breaking inanimate objects. Hopefully none of them are bodhisattvas.
Right.
But for me, I have the horrible and terrible habit of saying hurtful things and raising the tone of my voice too loud, and that has negative consequences on other people's minds, and it hurts them in the moment. That intensity affects them probably psychologically and emotionally and physically, and it leaves negative imprints in their minds about me. It affects the relationship and the dynamics between me in this life and future lives, and it creates like micro PTSDs probably to some degree of like some little traumas of like that intense moment. So like I'm actually harming people because my anger is and my rage gets so bad, and like I have to keep on working on that because it's a shitty habit that causes suffering, and it creates guilt in my mind and disturbs my own mind. But specifically, I'm harming other beings. Yeah. So, yeah, anger is very intense and very hard to deal with.
Yeah.
It's something I got to work on a lot.
Yeah. And some people think I don't have any. You know, it's like, well, you know, I'm like you. I'm not going to be angry around you. Why would I be angry around you? It's like, you don't make me angry.
Yeah,
nobody,
that's funny.
Nobody makes me angry, but I do get angry about a lot of things in this world that. It's tough. It's the hardest one. I read books on anger all the time. The Dalai Lama's book on anger and Thupten Chodron's book on anger. It's like, I need to just keep reading this stuff till it becomes, I understand it totally.
Totally. That's great that you do that.
But I don't. It's funny how you can know something, but still it's not part of you yet.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I heard one Pema Chodron, there's a student, and the student was saying, what about like sudden enlightenment or sudden realizations? And she said, I always thought that sudden realizations or sudden enlightenment was a byproduct of lots and lots of trying to practice and trying to change and trying to shift the mind over a long period of time. So for me, that's what makes a lot of sense. It's like, maybe someday in many future lifetimes I will overcome my anger, but until then I just have to be exerting effort relatively consistently to reflect and contemplate upon my anger and try to, as skillfully as I can, navigate my own negative emotions and intensity, and I have to keep working on that for the rest of this life until this thing Jesse dies. And I'm probably, if reincarnation and karma and all that is real, probably going to have to continue working on that in my next life, and my next life, and my next life. And then maybe there's going to be a point where I'll be like, aha, or like the emptiness realization or whatever it is that's going to cut the rage.
Yeah. Like I said, you think too much.
Okay, let's stop. Let's stop.
That's it.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Keyboard Podcast. Please have a nice day.